When Lisa Murkowski and Susan Collins announced that they were going to be no votes, there was a brief moment where people thought that maybe there could be an opportunity, and there was kind of a whack-a-mole going all around the country. Maybe Dean Heller is going to be a no. Maybe Pat Toomey is going to be a no. That search kept turning up yes votes everywhere it looked, and immediately Mitch McConnell was confident. And when Mitch McConnell tells you he's got the votes, he probably has the votes. Part of this is politics, and it's money in politics. We've talked about the tens of thousands, 90,000 or so that DeVos herself has given to Republicans. That's kind of chump change in the grand scheme of things. The fact that her family has given around $200 million or more to the Republican Party generally means that they're one of the biggest donors to the party. And so if you are a Republican senator and you can either alienate one of the biggest donors to the party, or you cannot alienate one of the biggest donors to the party, and it's over a position that doesn't have a whole lot of power anyway, and they are in line with your ideology to begin with, you're going to make the decision not to alienate this donor family, and you're going to overlook the fact that she's probably the least competent cabinet secretary ever to be put, at least in the modern era, into an administration. I'm here to take some of your questions about DeVos. You can tweet them at me at Ryan Grimm. You can put them up on Facebook, and I'll answer them here. One point that I want to make before getting to questions, though, this is something that Senator Tim Scott said to me just after the vote. Extreme right Republican from the state of South Carolina, strong backer of Betsy DeVos and of the school choice movement, voucher movement. He said, okay, Betsy DeVos was confirmed. That actually doesn't mean anything. About $550 billion of education money comes from the states. In other words, the federal government is not directing that money, so Betsy DeVos is not directing that money, nor can she tell the states necessarily what to do with it. Only about $68 billion of it comes from the education department, and of that $68 billion, very little of it can be appropriated in the way that Betsy DeVos wants. And in other words, Betsy DeVos can't, on her own, say that I'm going to do X, I'm going to gut this public school, I'm going to introduce school choice here, I'm going to do vouchers here, I'm going to do charters over there. She needs an act of Congress, and an act of Congress to do that will still require 60 votes as long as the filibuster. So while Betsy DeVos was confirmed today, the fight is far from over.
Okay, so David is saying, will the elimination of the Department of Education put DeVos out of the job? Catherine is concerned how much damage she will do. Eric wants to know what's her first action going to be.
Sure. Will eliminating the education department put DeVos out of a job? She is from one of the richest families in the United States. Her brother is actually Eric Prince of Blackwater infamy. Bernie Sanders, in her confirmation hearing, asked if it was true.
Would you be so kind as to tell us how much money your family has contributed to the Republican Party over the years?
I wish I could give you that number. I don't know.
I have heard the number was $200 million. Does that sound in the ballpark?
Collectively, between
over
my
the years,
entire
yes.
family, that's possible.
Okay. She wasn't sure. You can't blame her for that. Once you're into the couple hundred millions of dollars, it's hard to keep track of just how much you've given to the Republican Party. So if the education department is closed and she loses her job, she's going to be okay. So don't shed a tear for Betsy DeVos. But to the point I was making earlier, she doesn't have the power to close down the education department. That would have to be done at this point through an act of Congress, and I don't see that happening.
David Bowles is really upset about his two senators, Pat Roberts and Jerry Moran from Kansas. I noticed that the two Republicans who did vote against it were saying that they were concerned about rural schools. Why is it a concern about rural schools and not suburban or urban?
Right, so the two Republican senators that ended up voting against it, Susan Collins in Maine, Lisa Murkowski in Alaska, neither of those states have significant urban populations, with apologies to the viewers who might be in Anchorage or Portland, and so their main concern, really is these rural public schools, and choice and school vouchers are less of an issue in areas like that. I actually grew up in a rural area, and one reason for that is that it's not easy to just build up another school in the middle of nowhere to compete with the local public school. We had and still have one middle school for the entire county and one high school for the entire county, and people had to drive up to like 45 minutes to get to it. So, where are you going to find the students to fill these charter schools that the Betsy DeVos crowd wants to create? So, in order to do that, you have to go to the cities where you can have a different elementary school every block, and you can convert old factories that have been shut down, or you can convert old public schools that have been shut down into charter schools. And so ironically, the charter school movement has really flourished in a place where ideologically it's kind of least likely to take hold. Whereas in the conservative areas of the country, you don't have the same ability to kind of move people around the way that you might want to. Kansas, I don't think that those senators were very much in play, particularly because of the extreme strain, as he well knows, of the Republican Party.
So why would everyday Republican voters who voted for Trump like this confirmation?
I don't necessarily think that everyday Republican voters would like this nomination. I think that for a lot of people in the progressive movement and social movements on the left, this has become a focal point of opposition and kind of representative of a fraudulent selling out of whatever populism Trump claimed to be bringing to the White House, and so it has become a focal point. But I don't think that a lot of Trump voters are keyed up about this issue. I don't think that it's something that they're gravitating towards. To the extent that they're hardcore backers of him, then they're paying attention to things like the wall and the Muslim ban, and so this is kind of lower down. Now I think that some House Republicans, some senators, it could come back to bite them if the people who got charged up about this remain charged up in 2018 and take that anger to the polls, because there are a lot of kind of controversial nominees that were put forward, but what this showed is that people who have children in school, as well as teachers, as well as activists around these movements, are particularly energized around the issue of education. It's hard to find something that hits close to home as where your child is going to go to school, whether or not they're going to get a good education, whether you can afford them a better life than the one that you've had. So I do think that crosses party lines, and depending on how she does and what she's able to do, if she does do anything damaging, it could actually hurt Trump and Republicans going forward.